coming back to school with me. We could have done it all so easily.
Hi, my name is Craig Thompson Wood. I'm the board game teacher. Thanks for coming to the classroom. Today we're taking a look at Stop Thief by Restoration Games. So a little while back I had done a Kickin' It Old School video on the original game of Stop Thief, which came out in 1979. Now, I played a lot of that game when I was a kid and absolutely loved it, so I was excited to see that one when I found it. But then shortly after I found that one, this one had been Kickstarted. I've actually had this one for some time now, and I'm just only now getting it to my channel, but it is a fantastic version. You know, if you don't know Restoration Games, what they do is they look at some of those older games like Stop Thief, Downforce, Fireball Island, and soon coming out is Dark Tower. Some of these great games that were out in the late 70s, early 80s, and so that were great games in their own right, but they lacked some of the sort of the knowledge we have now in terms of the mechanics and the ideas that other people have developed, which make some of the board games that are out there today so much better than the board games we had when we were younger. In my opinion, and in a lot of other people's opinions as well. One of the big things being the whole idea of roll and move. You roll a dice, you move that many squares. Well, that kind of luck can sometimes hamper you if you're just not getting the dice rolls you need. In a game like this now, you're using cards to dictate your movement, and so that way there's strategy behind it. Which cards are you playing at which time to dictate which movements, and it's going to be fair for everybody. So that is something that Restoration Games does now, is they take those games and restore them to make them more in line with the modern board games of today and more playable. But enough about Restoration Games. Let's take this to the report card and see what I have to say about this game. So in looking at the number of players for Stop Thief, I'm going to give it an A-. Now, A- is a little weird because it is, again, you look at the box and it says it's between 2 to 4 players, and that's usually my B. That's usually my solid B. But there's a couple things about this. One is that the game doesn't just play 2 to 4 players in one way. It plays 2 to 4 players in multiple ways. You can have 2 to 4 players cooperatively, you could have 2 to 4 players competitively, or you could have 2 to 4 players where one person is playing the thief against the other players who are the investigators. I mean, there's all these different ways that you can do this to make for very different game experiences. So even with just 4 players, you can have a multitude of ways and varieties and combinations of plays that are going to make it very interesting and fun for all. Plus which, although it says on my box anyway, 2 to 4, because the game uses an app, and so you need a smartphone or a device to play the app on, they are able to constantly be developing it. And one thing that they have developed now is a solo mode, so it actually plays between 1 to 4 players. So even if you have that rainy day or whatever and you're just home by yourself and have nobody else to play with, you can always pull up this game and play on your own, and it's a really fun game. And I know I've done it when I was younger, just playing, trying to catch that thief on my own. So this way now it makes a game out of it rather than just listening to the clues, which you can also do as well. So overall, I think however many players you have, between 1 to 4, it's still great fun. For learning, I'm going to give the game a B. Now, I give it the B, even though the game doesn't contain a lot of, anything in terms of math, facts, or language. It contains a little bit of both. I mean, there's a little bit of reading on the cards. You're going to find things that you need to read on the cards that are the rules that are specific for each investigator. There's rules on the criminal cards which are specific for each criminal. So you need to read those and understand what it is that you need to do for each of those specific investigators or criminals. There's also a little bit of math involved in terms of how much money do you have. You're constantly counting up your money. If you think about your goal, okay, I have $27,000. I need a goal of $45,000. I am now $18,000 away. So you can constantly be doing that kind of thing as well. Plus which, if you're doing cooperative mode, now you're getting all those collaborative skills in there, those 21st century competencies of the collaboration, communication, problem solving, etc. Problem solving throughout this game in spades, absolutely, as you're listening to the clues, you're piecing together. That kind of learning right there is the kind of learning I really like to see, where it's not just those kinds of skills that you're going to learn through mathematics and reading that you might do in a classroom, or just through your repetitious practice. These are the kinds of skills that you're not going to learn any other place. These are the kinds of skills which you learn only through a game like this, and that's why I think this makes this game absolutely wonderful. For fun, I give this game an A+. I love this game. I have loved this game since I was a kid. I've loved this game. I've had fond memories of it all through my adulthood. And when I found it again in the original copy in a thrift store, I was delighted. And when I saw Restoration Games was doing this, I was through the roof. So I cannot say enough about this game in terms of how much fun I think it is. And I think it's a great game for kids and families alike. For time, I'm going to give the game an A. It's one of those games, it has the rules in terms of how many rounds you should be playing to see that there's an overall winner. Like I say, in a two-player game, I believe it's about $45,000 for the goal, for the money that you need to achieve. But there's nothing to say that you have to play up to that amount. If you're playing, say, as a classroom thing, so say on a lunch period where it's an indoor recess, you could play till the time runs out, until people say, okay, it's time to tidy up, and whoever has the most money wins. I mean, it could be one of those kinds of games. The setup is very easy, the striking is very easy, so overall I think that the time is not a big factor with this game. It's certainly nothing to be too concerned about. It's not something you'd want to play like on a short recess, like on 15 minutes, but for maybe a longer. For cost, I'm going to give the game an A, because this game sells for about $33 Canadian, which is a very low price for a game like this, particularly as I say that you are getting so much replayability, because every game is going to be different, because the thief is going to be hitting different spaces, they're going to be taking different movements, you could play different investigators, you could play different modes. The fact that you have all those different modes of play as well makes this game just that much more valuable to me. I just think that there's so many great ways to play this game, and it's certainly worth the money that you're paying for it. Alright, so let me take it to the table and I'll show you how this game is played. So here's the board setup for Stop Thief. And if you've seen my previous video on the Kicking an Old School version of Stop Thief, or if you have seen the original version of Stop Thief, you will see that this board is very, very similar to the original one, which is something that Restoration Games does, is they improve upon the games, making it more in line with the modern board games and some of the ideas and concepts and mechanics of modern board games that people enjoy nowadays that they didn't so much enjoy before, and improve upon that as they make the game, which still keeps the flavor and the theme and the feel of the original game, but modernizes it to make it more suitable for today's play. So this is a great example here. So the board is, like I say, very similar. So you have all the numbers where the thief could be. So those are the places where you can be trying to locate the thief. And it has paths that you travel. So you have to travel along those paths. You can't just zigzag wherever you want to. You have to make sure that you're following the paths. They're also important for when you're making an arrest. Like I couldn't make an arrest from 172 over to 164 because that's not along a path. Similarly, from 152, there has to be an adjacent path of footsteps that takes you there. So I could go from 153 to 162, even though it looks a long way, there is the path of footsteps which joins the two, so they're considered adjacent. So one thing which is great about the new Stop Thief is that they have different investigators, each of which has different powers. Before you can get different investigators, and they were just different in picture or card alone. But now what they have is every investigator is a little bit different. Every investigator is going to come with their own set of cards, and their card dictates their movement. So you're going to get 2 movement points in a turn, 11, as high as 12. And so some investigators are going to be faster than others. This one here, the blue one, is Vivian O. And Vivian has the ability to go through windows. She can stop on window spaces and travel through windows where no other investigators can. So that's her special ability. But her highest speed is 11, and she has a range between 11 and 2. Whereas Sandra Jones here, Sandra Jones is the black meeple, and Sandra has the ability to move quicker while she's running around the outside of a building than the other investigators. She gets 3 free spaces when moving on the outside of a building, but then again you see that her highest movement is 9, so it balances out in that way. The red player here is John Jimmy James. John Jimmy James, he is quite slow, so again, highest is 9, but he has access to more of the private tips than the other players do. So he gets 2 of those. So he can get a tip before moving, and you can get a tip after moving, which is very useful. The private tip tells you exactly where the invisible thief is, so that's a good one to know. Tad Magnum here. Tad is very fast. He doesn't have any of those special abilities that the other investigators have, but he's got like 2 8s, 2 12s, and then a 2 and a 1. So he's super fast all on his own. Pepper Gonzalez is one that you'd have to be cautious about who you're letting play this one, or who is playing against Pepper, because I know if I was playing against Pepper when I was a kid, this one could, certainly lead to a lot of tears with people who are lacking in sportsmanship, as I was when I was younger. Because before moving Pepper, you can take $1,000 from another investigator. So 2 of her cards allow you to do that, so twice in a cycle, because the lowest card always allows you to pick up all your other cards. So it could be strategic in terms of when you're pulling your cards back again, but constantly stealing money from other investigators I know can lead to problems with some people. And then the final one is Drake Benedict, and Drake, he has the ability to move other investigators 4 spaces. Either before he moves, he can then also move another investigator 4 spaces. Again, this can sometimes, I guess, lead to some problems with some, maybe those 2 you might want to leave out for some of the younger kids. But I'm going to show you the link on the side here. I'm going to put picture in picture. I'm going to put up the app now, the app that is used for this game. And it's the wonderful, like in the beginning, the original version of the game, you had what was called the crime scanner. And the crime scanner, if you read the back of the rule book for this game, it actually talks about the designer, who was Dr. Robert Doyle. He was literally a rocket scientist. He was a NASA scientist who had given up his job with NASA to design electronic components for board games, most famously the Merlin board game, if you remember that one from way back in the Dark Ages. Anyway, so just turning on the app here now. Okay, so here's the starting screen for the Stop Thief. So it's going to start off with a different thing. And this is one nice thing about the game too, is that it has all these different modes now. So in the old Stop Thief, you had a competitive mode where every investigator was playing for themselves. Now sometimes my brother and I would play sort of more cooperatively, where we would just listen to the sounds and things and just work together and try and puzzle out where the thief was and then make the arrest just based on that. That was just sort of a brain exercise we like to do just for fun. So, but you can do that sort of thing now with cooperative, but then you're still using the board to capture the thieves. Competitive, you're playing against each other. 1 versus many, so that's where one person is going to play the thief, and then a solo mode as well. So it's nice to have that opportunity for the solo mode. So I'm going to say here competitive, just put that in there, and it's going to give me the rules for competitive mode. And so that way I have if I have any questions about how to do it, and it says the rules for the setup, playing the game, sound clues, etc., etc. So for full rules explanations, you can go into there. Let's look at the rules, and we'll say competitive. So the first player is the one to read a mystery novel most recently. So whoever did that starts the game, and then off we go. So slide to get a clue. So you're always going to start off getting a clue each turn, and that clue is the thief's movement. Okay, so it's the Trust US Bank, or the Trust Us Bank. All right, so we have here, we have Dr. Doyle's, we have the Trust Us Bank, we have the Museum of Modern Antiquity, and we have Swimingers. So they're in the Trust Us Bank, so they're down in here somewhere. So with that red crime, they are in one of these spaces. Oh, we'd have to choose a thief. So we have here, it's Alphonse Ness. So while at large, investigators play an extra $1,000 fine if they argue the rules. Nope. For a false arrest. All right, so reveal the next thief card. All right, and you always have the option to replay the clue. Okay, so it reminds you what the last clue was. And so then as an investigator, so let's just say I was playing Tad. Oh no, I'm playing Jimmy and Vivian. Okay, so I'm just going to do it randomly here. So let's just say that Jimmy goes, and he's playing 4. So he's going to get a private tip. So I press the private tip button, and you hide this from the other investigators because it's going to tell you exactly where the crime took place. So it's just me, so I know now, and I wouldn't, if I was playing Jimmy, I wouldn't get this information to Vivian, but I know it took place at 475. Okay, and I press go back, and now it goes back to this screen, so when I end my turn, Vivian doesn't see that. Oh, and I move 4. So before moving, so then I'm going to go along these spaces. I'm going to move 4, and I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. And we have to, as investigators, we have to we go by the circles. So when I'm moving 4, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm into there now. Okay, so now it's going to be Vivian's turn. And so there's an opening door. So now Vivian's looking at it. She says, well, if she was here, could open this door. Here could be 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 this door. Or here could be this door. So there's just so many options for it to be that Vivian's not quite sure. But, okay, she's going to play her card again. I'm just going to do it randomly. Before moving, get a private tip. So she also wants a private tip. So she's getting a private tip. And she knows now it's at 456. So it was from here and went to this door here. So now remember, Jimmy knew the crime was here, but does now not know which door the thief has gone through. Okay, and then she goes 3. So she'll go 1, 2, and 3. And now Jimmy's turn. So we have these footsteps. So the footsteps now, again, they can be here or here. So even me, having had the knowledge of the past so far, I'm starting to lose the thief again. But so Jimmy's going to play a card, and Jimmy's going to go 7. So Jimmy will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And let's just try it just on a thing. So Jimmy thought, well, maybe from here to here, footsteps to here. So make an arrest at 447. So you punch in the numbers, confirm, we're dispatching the officers. Oh. Yep, and the thief is caught. So that means then that we stay here. And Jimmy has caught this one, so Jimmy would take that plus $10,000. And in a 2-player game, you have to get a certain amount. I believe it's $45,000 for a 2-player game. So the more players, the less money you need to win. But $45,000. Well, that's going to wrap it up for today's episode. If you have any questions about Stop Thief or Restoration Games, or have any other ideas for games you might like to see on the channel, or topics you might like me to talk about, please leave me a message in the comment section below. And please don't forget to hit like and subscribe. It's very helpful to me to have those subscribers bases building and getting the word out there of the kinds of games that you could be using in your classroom and your home for educational purposes, just especially during this time where we're looking at distance learning. Well, until next time, I'm Craig Thompson with the Board Game Teacher saying thanks for coming to the classroom.
Are you coming back to school with me?